Well, I think to understand Mi'kmaq culture here in the province, you have to understand what happened here, what the landscape was, what the life was like here prior to European contact. And I think that's critical that we go back and we understand the Mi'kmaq cultural landscape prior to European settlement. For example, we know that through research and other investigations that Mi'kmaq lived on. We have 42 principal rivers here in the province of Nova Scotia. Mi'kmaq people lived on every one of those rivers. Um, they lived strategically on them. They were their activities were very deliberate and planned. By that I mean, for example, we'll talk about a pre-contact economy, for instance, in southwest Nova Scotia when we're talking about Yarmouth, Bridgewater, those places. And people, it's been taught, at least in my day, that Mi'kmaq people were nomadic. They just wandered around the landscape with no kind of,
Right.
purpose in mind other than to hunt, fish, and eat, right? But that's really not the case. And as I say, their lifeways here were very deliberate, very strategized, um, planned. And I was just mentioning fishwares, for instance. We have four types of fishware structures found in our river systems. And we hear this discussion today over the fishery about fishery management, access to the fishery resources. But Mi'kmaq had a fishery plan in place thousands of years ago. And I had this discussion with people the other day, and you look at, like I say, stone fishwares. We have a V-shaped upstream oriented fishware at the head of tide. We have a bush kind of fence takeware at the mouth of rivers at the coast. We have kind of rectangular fishware structures above the head of tide and downstream oriented fishwares coming out of interior lakes. And address a fishware. What's a fishware?
Yes,
A
that'd be great.
fishware is any barrier placed in a river designed to impede the movement of fish for capture. It could be a stone structure, could be old logs, anything that it impedes the travel of fish as they're traveling upriver to spawn or to feed. That's a fishware. It doesn't have to be this technological masterpiece, but they're very simple technology, and that technology's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And so Mi'kmaq people, they were very strategic. They lived on 42 principal rivers. They were hardly nomadic. They may have been, people say, okay, semi-nomadic. And I really don't believe they were semi-nomadic. They were, because you have this technology on river systems, there's no need to move huge populations. So only specialized groups are moving. We have trades today in our culture, in our society today: plumbers,
Mm.
electricians, etc., doctors, lawyers, accountants. So Mi'kmaq communities in the pre-contact times prior to European settlement would have had specialized activities and trades for their people. You would have had a ceramic person making pottery. You would have had a person um, treating furs, making arrowheads. So there's very specialized trades, fishers. So rather than moving huge groups around, small specialized groups would move to take care of the needs of the community on a river. So these groups were very independent, they were very autonomous, they lived that way for thousands of years. They were, I'll try to simplify this, they were bilateral. They had bilateral relationships. What I mean by that, people on two rivers would be related. Now, for example, if my daughter was to fall in love with someone else's son, my daughter would move to that river And it would be likewise, their daughter would move to my river if they fell in love with my son and married my son. So that's a bilateral relationship. And the value of that is to keep the community strong. They share in resources. Although Mi'kmaq they're a nation, they're a subgroup of these 42 autonomous groups. Like I say, they're again related through marriage, and the benefit of that is if my resources decline one year, at least I can share in my extended family their resources.